After having obtained my medical degree and my neurology specialty at the University of Modena and Reggio Emilia, I spent 2 years in the States as a researcher, and then moved to Oxford, where I obtained my DPhil. And then I remained as a clinical scientist, working as a clinical scientist in Oxford for more than 10 years. My work has always focused on dementia, trying to link and bring the most advanced research on the functioning of the brain into the clinical practice, into the daily life of the patients with dementia and cognitive disorders that I see in the clinic. And indeed, it is from observing my patients directly, and it's from their story and the stories of their families and caregivers that I get the questions, the scientific questions that are at the basis of my research. A significant proportion of patients with Alzheimer's disease is convinced there's nothing wrong with them. We call these symptoms as anosognosia, or unawareness of disease.
Life is much more difficult for the persons who are living together with patients with Alzheimer, because they realize that the brain slowly declines more and more, and this is really not an easy situation.
Some other patients, not all of them, are convinced that their partner, for example, has an affair, or that their neighbors wants to harm them. The symptoms are indicated as delusions, persecutory delusions. How is it possible that our brain, even when it's been damaged and eroded by a neurodegenerative disease such as Alzheimer's disease, remains able to produce these symptoms that are very complicated and complex cognitively?
Research is being done on what really happens during the disease, in particular in the brain of the people who are suffering from the Alzheimer's disease.
One of the most important questions that is at the basis of UnaWireD, which is this project funded by the European Research Council, is why some patients with Alzheimer's disease, not all, develop an awareness of disease or anosognosia. Why some and not all of them develop delusion, persecutory delusions. The project involves neuropsychological and neurological assessments. These are basically based on questions and tests or questionnaires that we ask the participant as well as their family, caregivers or study partners. We are indeed recruiting patients with Alzheimer's disease as well as patients with Parkinson's disease and Huntington disease.
They asked me hundreds of questions, and some of which were rather difficult. Then I was given an MRI scan, and while they were doing it, they asked me other questions, and I had to answer yes or no by clicking a button.
We also recruit healthy volunteers, and for both affected patients but also healthy volunteers, we always ask to be accompanied by a study partner, a person who knows them well so that they can answer questions regarding their lifestyle habits as well as their lifetime personality.
Actually, I don't know the exact reason why a person has to be accompanied by a partner, but I would imagine that it's so that the answers given can be checked to see if they're true or false. Obviously, the partner is somebody who knows you very well, and you know the other person, and so this makes it possible to check the answers given.
Thanks to this project, we have been able to recruit several researchers, and their competences span from physics to mathematics to psychology to medicine. They have joined the existing team of neuroimagers at the University of Modena and Reggio Emilia, and they are strictly collaborating with the clinical team of Azienda Ospedaliera di Modena, where I also practice as a neurologist.
The research group were very patient, very kind, They explained everything before beginning, and even during the tests, they gave other explanations. So, although I was rather nervous at the beginning, they overcame my nervousness and I was able to do all the tests.
A very concrete result that we will be obtaining is also that we will be able to identify which specific neurotransmitters is responsible for these specific symptoms, to become able in future to cure these symptoms pharmacologically. But even if my single specific hypothesis turn out not to be proven, we will have contributed to change the paradigm in which we study the diseased brain, not as a fixed entity in which a damage has caused a loss of a previously normal function, as we neurologists were so used to think, but rather as the result of the interplay between the damaged and the unaffected brain, whose response can be sometimes maladaptive and depends on whether the brain was vulnerable or not.
In my opinion, this research is really important. I hope we will find new approaches how to deal with this Alzheimer's disease.
The knowledge and understanding of neurological disorders progresses slowly but constantly. As a neuroscientist and neurologist, we are involved in contributing to advance step by step, each of us to contribute a little step towards a better understanding of these diseases, with the final aim of helping people who are affected to live better and possibly to cure them.